Christmas is over, but Santa Claus is with us today. We've got Richard Halopka, who's the crops and soils agent in Clark County, and you got your whiskers. They're starting to turn white, Richard.
Well, they've been white for a couple years, but my wife likes it, so that's why I still have it.
Mrs. Claus likes the whiskers. Richard is with us this morning as we talk to our experts about alfalfa on our Alfalfa Alfalfa program. And Richard, let's start by talking about fertility of those alfalfa stands. Of course, we've got liquid manure and other items we can use, but what about the benefits of liquid manure? How do we use it? How much can we count on to tell that it's making a difference?
Liquid manure is a very reliable fertilizer source. It provides a lot of potassium, and what's unique, a lot of guys will have a corn alfalfa rotation, and when you go 1 or 2 years of corn, we're applying that manure, dairy manure in particular, probably at a rate for the nitrogen requirement, but we're also applying extra potassium. And so, depending upon the rates of manure that we're applying, we can maybe add on some potassium credits, maybe for 1 or 2 years of alfalfa. So it's a very good source of potassium.
So that's free potassium. Basically, we're not buying that potassium from another source.
Correct. I wouldn't say it's all free, but it's
nothing in life is.
Nothing in life is, but we don't have to write out a check for more potash. Correct.
All right, and other fertilizers during the year that we need to keep up with to keep our alfalfa stands producing and healthy?
I think it's really important in our area of the state here. Right now, we're haven't seen a lot of signs, but sulfur is maybe something that's extremely important, and I'd recommend 10 to 20 pounds of sulfur per year on an alfalfa stand. And there are sources, ammonium sulfate, calcium sulfate are excellent sources to supply sulfur. And I would also like to see boron is something I think that it's a micronutrient, but it is one that can move in the soil, and I think it's advisable to add that at least once a year.
I was going to say, split applications are just once a year.
The sulfur, I would probably like to see a split that up if you're applying more than one pass. If you're putting everything on in one pass, then put it on in one pass.
Do we figure these fertilizers based on a 3-cut system, a 4-cut system, or what do we decide is the way to do it?
I guess I would look at tonnage removed is where I would look at it. It doesn't matter if you're 3 or 4 cut. Are we removing 5 tons of dry matter, 4 tons of dry matter? And then we need to calculate removal. Look at our soil test, which is where our starting point is. And if we're in that optimum level of potassium, we're probably going to have to add what we remove then in forages. If we're excessively high in potassium, we can maybe back that potash or that potassium application down. But the sulfur and those, we could do it once or twice a year, however your schedule fits for top dressing.
Soil test, tissue test, what tells us the most?
A tissue test with a soil test would probably tell you the most. Tissue tests are a good gauge in season. However, what other factors are we not calculating? Are we in a dry period? Are we in a wet period? These can all be factors. Are the plants stressed, not stressed? Tissue test is a tool. We got our toolboxes. We got to have our tools in that toolbox. It's a tool we can use if we see something going on in the field. But if we're just going to take a tissue test and not pull a soil sample at the same area, it's not going to tell us exactly what's going on in that plant.
And you want to know what's going on in those alfalfa stands? Richard Halopka with us, Clark County Crops and Soils Agent on our WAXX Ask the Expert program.